Hello and welcome to Simply Spirit. Since this is the first episode, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I realized some of my gifts or some of my abilities. When I was 7 years old, I lived in Versailles, Indiana, and the room that I was in, there would be a woman who would appear in my room. Like, I could feel her energy really strongly, and this used to frighten me as a child. And this would continue to happen almost on a nightly basis until I ended up switching rooms with my brother, my youngest brother. And my youngest brother never seemed to have any problems in this room whatsoever. And, my mom has since passed. And one day, my dad said that he heard somebody walking in that room, and he went to look, but nobody was in there. And, my older brother wasn't home or anything else. And it's like, yeah, I know that happens a lot. So, but it also could have been my mom that was there in that room, for whatever reason. But I know that I used to have that experience in that room, not just the walking though, but I would physically see her, and she was an older woman. I don't really know what she wanted because I didn't have anybody to really talk to growing up. And it wasn't like my parents or anyone else said that I was using my imagination too much or I was making things up or anything like that. It wasn't like that at all. No one ever said this to me, so I just assumed that everybody was the same. I never questioned anything that I ever did. And so, as an adult, people would kind of joke with me and say like, "Oh yeah, you're a psychic," and I'm like, "Okay," just kind of joking along with them because I would tell them things and it would happen, or I would have a dream about them and it would happen. And I remember one day when I was going to work, I had to be at work by 6. It was really early in the morning, and it was kind of foggy out. And I lived in an area where it was on on back roads, and I was going up this hill, and to my left were two police cars just sitting there, no lights on, no nothing. I mean, it's a good thing I wasn't running late because I probably would have run right into the cars without even, it would have just happened so quickly, which most accidents do anyways. But, I saw that and I didn't understand why they were there or anything else. But when I got to work, I went to a person who worked there and told them they needed to contact their sister. And I had no idea that she even had relatives that lived over in that area. And where the police cars were parked, it could have been for any house that was there because it was kind of like house after house after house. So later on, I learned that she did call her sister, and it was her niece. I guess she had broken up with her boyfriend, and she had a new boyfriend, and the old boyfriend was trying to break into the house. And needless to say, sadly, that the old boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, ended up taking his life on a gravel road not far from where this house is located. And so it was really, it's really sad that that happened. But at the same time, she got a heads up. I was able to give her a heads up to call and make sure everybody was okay. And so at another location where I worked, a friend of mine, I worked at a bank, and she was hoping that a certain person was going to call her. And I told her, I looked at her very calmly and said, within the next 10 minutes, the phone's going to be ringing and it's going to be for you and it's going to be this person. And, she just kind of looked at me and we just kind of went on with our day. Well, 10 minutes later, the phone rang. It was for her and it was the person that I said it was going to be. When she got off the phone, she just kind of looked at me and I just, I didn't really know what to say to her because it's just very common for things like this to happen. So I met my husband and I never really said much of anything about. I mean, I would tell him the stories, just like I'm telling you now, of things that had happened. Sometimes I would just know things without being told. Um, like if I felt it, like there was a time when I felt a child was sick, and I found out my cousin had been taken to the hospital because he had had an allergic reaction to something that he ate. And so these were just very common things. And so I would tell him about this stuff, but never gave it much thought after that. Never took it any farther. And so there was one night though that I woke up and our room had an unusual smell. And I knew that my husband was dreaming about his friend who had passed away. And I had never met this friend, this person at all. He lived in New York and he died before I even met my husband. And so I thought, it was kind of weird, but I had to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, came back, and the smell was gone. So the next day I, was kind of leery about telling him. And I know we were headed to see a friend perform. He's a singer, and he was going to be in Little Nashville. It's probably about an hour away from where we live. We actually live in Indiana still, in Westport, Indiana, and Little Nashville. Really isn't that far away. It's kind of like where a lot of people go, and they have little shops and stuff there. But he was performing at one of these at a hotel there, and we were going to be spending the night there so we could listen to the entire set and everything. And so we went and we done that, and we went back to the room, and I knew I had to tell him, but I was kind of nervous about it. It wasn't like I had ever shared something like this before. And so, I told him, I said, I have to tell you something. It's pretty important. And I told him what happened. And his mouth was just, it's almost like one of those episodes where you see somebody's mouth just drop open and you just want to kind of close the mouth a little bit. And so that's kind of what happened to me. And I was really nervous. He was really cool about it though, because he'd had his own paranormal experiences and things that he couldn't explain or anything else to. So it was really cool. And so that kind of began my little journey with that. And then in 2009, we were doing a podcast. Kind of interesting that I'm doing a podcast now, but Steve is my husband, by the way. Steve and I were doing a podcast called Your Life Matters with Jen and Steve. And on one of the episodes, I wanted to interview somebody from a paranormal group because we had been watching Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International and, just for the places. I mean, it was so fascinating to see all the different places and locations. I mean, think about it. We live in America and you go to England and these other places and they have the most amazing, beautiful castles and buildings and everything else. Not saying that we don't have those kind of things here, but it's just different. And so we used to watch Ghost Hunters International to see all the different locations and never thought that we would become friends with any of them or to meet anybody from Ghost Hunters or anything else, which we have done that. And, we, some of our friends are really awesome and they are from some of these shows. So, again, never thought about it, but back to the podcast, we were doing that and we were talking to, a paranormal group out of Indy. And they said, if we ever get an opportunity to have you guys tag along with us, you're more than welcome to go, that kind of thing. And so we went. We did get that opportunity. That would come in November of 09. And my daughter was at the hospital. She was giving birth to our first grandson. And Steve got a phone call. And they asked if we could go that weekend, to this old hospital to investigate. And we're like, yeah, sure. And so we came home and got a recorder and, some other things that we needed for the trip. And we went. And we went to an old hospital and it was amazing. There was quite a few things that happened there, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because it will take a long time to sort through all of that. I do talk about it in detail in my latest book, Exploring the Unknown with Jen, True Accounts from a Paranormal Investigator, which can be purchased on Amazon if you're interested. And you can hear the actual whole story of how the events took place in that. What I will say though is it was that location that kind of opened Pandora's box, I guess you could say, but it really opened me up to a lot of different things to take place. And within a short period, 6 months period, a lot of things happened. And at 6 months in 2010, May of 2010, with the passing of my cousin, I really had to face the fact of who I was and what I was able to do. And so the mediumship would actually come a little bit later. I was doing it, but I just didn't have a name for it. And I guess really that's what it is with a lot of things that I do. I don't really have a name for it. It's just something that I do. It's something that's very natural for me to do. And so I don't even second guess it. I don't, think about it having a name or anything else. It's just something that I do. So I was forced to accept the fact of what I was able to do, and I also learned from that same investigation 6 months later that I have natural healing abilities, and which prompted me to look into Reiki, which I am a Reiki master, and I like to learn from other people as well. And right now, I'm currently studying with the Mountain Gypsies, and it's amazing, and I absolutely love it. But that came out of that too, and so then, after dealing with that and accepting the things that came along with that, there was other things that I learned too. Later on, I'm not really sure how much later on or what month it was. I was speaking to someone on Facebook about doing an investigation at their location. They had told me that they had moved and that they had paranormal experiences at their house that they used to live in. They still owned the house. They haven't sold it or anything. And so we were going to be talking about possibly doing an investigation there. And I had never met this person before, even though I knew she said she, used to live in the area, and I was friends with her on Facebook. When you live in an area, you have a lot of people that kind of know who you are, even if you don't really know them, and they'll send you friend requests and stuff. So, and that's kind of what happened here. I knew that she had worked at the school, which she had told me that. And as I was sitting there, I started to get a lot of information about her husband who had passed. And I didn't realize what I was doing. I just typed all of the stuff out, and then all of a sudden I was crying, and that was kind of weird because there was no reason for me to be crying. And the more I talked to her, she said that she was crying. And because I had said to her, I said, I don't know if you're crying or not, but I said, I'm crying. And she said, oh my gosh, she says, I am crying. She said, it's the first time since my husband passed away that I actually cried. And so I was able to bring through messages for her from him. And it was at that point in time that I realized that I wasn't just a psychic, but I was also a medium. And so that began my quest to learn everything and anything that I could about what it is that I was doing. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people seem to think that these abilities or these gifts are only for certain few. Now, granted, there are only certain people who are mediums. Everybody has the ability to develop their psychic abilities, and we all have the ability to connect with our loved ones in spirit. And by that, I mean we're able to receive messages from them or see signs and symbols from them, such as you may see coins in places that you knew there shouldn't be coins. And that's really just our loved one's way of letting you know that, hey, they're around. Or you may see a set of numbers and that may connect to a certain person, or you hear a certain song on the radio. There are a number of different ways that our loved ones let us know that they're around us at different times. We always think of that we can't ever communicate with them when they pass, but in actuality, we can. We just have to learn how to do it in a different way. And so that's kind of what what that's really all about. But as far as being a psychic, everybody has all of the abilities to be a psychic. We can all see things, hear things, know things. It's really just up to you to develop those. And by the clairs, or by the gifts, I guess. I'm talking about being a clairvoyant or clairaudient, those kind of things. And I will talk about those in another upcoming episode. But I just wanted to kind of share my story with you as to how I came about to know that I was a psychic medium. And I know there are other people out there who have gone through a lot of different things and not even realize what it is that they're doing. I've had some people come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I used to see things, all the time. I would see these spirits or these little children at the edge of my bed and nobody else could see them, or I always had a lot of anxiety about different things, about being around being in large crowds," which that's totally me in a nutshell. If we're in Walmart or other places and there's a lot of people there, the energy is really strong. And so that becomes a little too much for me. And so I need to leave. And so I have a lot of people who come to me and say these different types of things to me. And that's really just your gifts. And we just need to learn how to use them. And yeah, so like I said, everybody is a psychic. Not everybody is a medium, but you can develop everything and anything in order to connect with your loved ones. You may not be able to deliver messages to other people, um, but you can definitely learn the signs and symbols so that you can connect to your own loved ones in spirit. So that's really all I'm going to talk about this today. I mean, that is like the very first beginning steps of how I realized I was a psychic medium. And there is a lot more to this story, which I will be sharing in another episode. I'll take you through some steps and on how you can develop your own too. So if you have any questions or any feedback or any comments, please let me know. Please place them below or send me a message on Facebook. You can find me on my like page, Jen Hodgson, Psychic Medium. I also have there's also a like page on Facebook for professional paranormal investigations. Or if you're interested in purchasing any one of my books, I actually have 2 books. You can purchase them on Amazon. Just look for Jennifer Hodgson. And the most recent one, if you put in Exploring the Unknown and my name, Jennifer Hodgson, you will find that book. So I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see you, or I won't see you, but I'll be talking to you in the next podcast. So have a great day. Bye.